Everyone, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 38 to the House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Pursuant to the Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on Tuesday, February the 1st, the committee will resume its study on the mental health of young women and girls. Today's meeting is taking place in hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of June 23, 2022. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of the witnesses and members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you will have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French for those in the room. You can use your earpiece, select the desired channel. I think looking at who's in here today, we all have some professionals. We should all know how to use this, so we should be in good shape. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. And for those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. And for members on Zoom, please use your raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as we best can, and I'll appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. In accordance with our routine motion, I am informing the committee that all witnesses have completed the required connection tests in advance of the meeting. Before we welcome our witnesses, I would like to provide this trigger warning. This will be a difficult study, and we will be discussing experiences related to mental health. This may be triggering to viewers, members, or staff with similar experiences. If you feel distressed or if you need help, please advise the clerk. I'd now like to welcome our guests. And on our first panel today, we have the Honourable Marcy Ian, Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Youth, and Marcy is online here today. And I'd like to welcome from the department, Frances McRae, who is the Deputy Minister, and Lisa Smiley, the Director General Research Results and Delivery Branch. Thank you all for coming here. So I will be providing to the Minister the 5 minutes at your opening comments. When you see me start swirling my hand, that means your time is up. So Minister Ian, I pass the floor over to you for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, merci beaucoup. Thank you, colleagues, for the opportunity to speak with you today as part of your important study on the mental health of young women and girls. And I want to begin by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. I have the fortune of regularly meeting with extraordinary young people from right across the country who I can tell you are more diverse, more socially engaged, and much more educated than ever before. Ces jeunes personnes remarquables.
These remarkable young people fill me with profound hope for bright and prosperous days ahead. They are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they are the leaders of today.
For young people, mental health is an everyday topic. It is not separate from work or community or school or family. It is part of their daily lives. With their voices, we will create a healthier, more inclusive Canada. As you know, the lead on mental health is my colleague, who you'll be hearing from later today, Minister Bennett. I work with Minister Bennett and all of my cabinet colleagues to ensure that mental health support is accessible and that our young people are protected. And looking toward the youth section of my portfolio, as well as on a very personal level, I have a keen interest in ensuring that we think about what we can do in a holistic way to improve the lives of young people in Canada. The pandemic disrupted and impacted many aspects of our lives: school closures and disruptions, social isolation, more time spent online to stay connected, increased family stress, and fewer options for those experiencing gender-based violence. All of these factors have resulted in a greater number of young people struggling with their mental health. Along with this, systemic inequality worsens mental health challenges and symptoms for young people with intersecting lived experiences. For their part, 2S LGBTQI+ youth report notably high rates of mental health struggles, 60% reporting moderate to severe anxiety, 41% reporting symptoms of depression, and nearly 30% reporting suicidal thoughts. Il est impératif.
It is essential that young people have access to the mental health services and support that they need.
Young women and girls who have experienced gender-based violence have a high risk of distress and immediate or long-term mental health issues such as depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance use issues, or suicidal thoughts. To address this and to help create awareness on gender-based violence, my department recently developed a campaign designed for youth. It's called It's Not Just, and it will help empower young people to identify and challenge views and actions in their environment that contribute to GBV. While it's clear there are challenges, there are opportunities and successes as well that we must continue to bring forward. I cannot stress enough the significant role that community-based organizations play in the space of youth well-being and mental health. Programs such as the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy, Canada Summer Jobs, the Canada Service Corps have wraparound support services such as mentorship and coaching built in to help young people navigate not only job and volunteer opportunities, but a key period in their lives as they learn about the world of work and transition into adulthood. During the early days of COVID-19, Prime Minister Trudeau took the time to talk about mental health and to talk about resources such as Kids Help Phone. Representatives from that organization tell us that on that day, Kids Help Phone had the highest level of engagement ever. The PM's Youth Council, of which I am vice chair, is a diverse group of young Canadians who provide nonpartisan advice to the PM and the Government of Canada on issues of importance to them and to all Canadians. The world has changed so much, and the unique challenges and pressures young people face in their lives are significant. It's our job as a government to support them and reduce barriers wherever possible. That comes through concrete support, such as the $30 million investment to crisis hotlines across Canada, $14.8 million specifically for Kids Help Phone, fighting online harm and taking measures to reduce financial pressure on students, such as permanently freezing interest on federal student loans. The actions and investments I have described cannot on their own put an end to ongoing mental health impacts experienced by young women and girls. We know that. L'étude du comité promet.
The committee's study is promising and will help us find solutions that will allow us to examine the challenges impacting people's mental health.
And committee members, I am very happy to take your questions.
So what we'll be doing today is we'll be starting off with our first round. Our first round is 6 minutes for each group. So I'll be starting off with Dominique Vienne for 6 minutes. Dominique, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Madam Minister, for being with us this morning. I was rereading the mandate letter that the Prime Minister gave you when you were appointed. There's a lot of work to do and expected of you. One thing that interests us specifically, and to follow up on what we've heard here, the Prime Minister has asked you to create a national action plan, and I quote, a national action plan that would put an end to gender-based violence, and you would have to have negotiations with the provinces and territories within a year and create a secretariat for violence against women. Can you give us an update on those 3 mandates given to you by the Prime Minister?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much for the question.
Such a great opportunity to talk about this. Last week, November 9th, Wednesday, November 9th, I was so happy to stand beside my provincial and territorial counterparts, from whom we got the go-ahead, is what I will call it, after speaking for 2 days in Pictou, Nova Scotia, and launch our National Action Plan to end gender-based violence. It was an opportunity to speak with my counterparts, as each province is unique, each province is rare, with regards to what they're seeing, how gender-based violence is addressed. Hear, listen. At the beginning of that meeting, the first day, it was national Indigenous leaders and representatives that were at the table. Here's what I'd like to tell you. All of us, to a person, sat in a circle. We heard from the national Indigenous leaders and representatives about their struggles, their challenges, and frankly, how we've all helped. It was listening, it was learning. And the 2 days after that, we did the same with provinces and territories.
Et qu'est-ce qui ressort?
And what we heard during all of our meetings with witnesses was quite shocking. There were organizations that are not appropriately funded, young girls who are harassed, bullied on social media. All of the things that you could think of, we heard. And how will the action plan respond to what we've heard with regards to violence against young women and girls?
C'est une bonne question.
That's a good question.
Sense of the recommendations for the National Action Plan to end gender-based violence came from the provinces and territories, because we know, as I said earlier, they're unique. They know what they need. They know the grassroots organizations that are doing the work to help the women and girls, to provide the wraparound services, and so each is unique. We are at a stage now where we will begin our negotiations, our bilateral, province by province, to hear everything that each province has heard from those who are experiencing gender-based violence, because that's what this action plan was built on, survivors, those that are in the space, the experts. We couldn't have gotten there without them. That's what this plan is based on. And so now it is coming together with the provinces and territories, one by one, to find out who will continue to bring that plan forward.
Il est question de mettre en place.
There was talks about creating a secretariat that would be focusing on violence against women. How would that secretariat respond to horror stories that we've been hearing from the field?
It's the provinces and territories that we hear from as well. This is a joint effort. There's nothing like hearing from grassroots organizations, hearing from survivors, hearing from those that have spoken to you in this very important forum after reading and understanding and learning from this very important study. This is who we need to hear from. This is who we have heard from. So really, it is about the provinces and territories negotiating with us and saying, this is what survivors are telling us. This is what we need. We have a floor. Each territory will get at least $4 million. Each province, at least $2 million. There is a shared cost. And of course, there will be a public accounting of all of this. And my ministry will work hand in hand with each province and territory to make sure that we're addressing the very needs you talk about.
Madame la ministre, en terminant.
Madam Minister, to conclude, and I don't have a lot of time, you talk a lot about the future. So there is a consensus to move forward, but how much time are you giving yourselves to conclude negotiations with the provinces so that we can see concrete actions on the field?
We are seeing concrete actions on the field, and this is why we knew there was a need for an action plan that brought together provinces, territories, as well as the government to push this work forward.
Perfect.
We didn't just get here. We have been doing this work a long time.
Thank you very much, Minister Ian. I'm now going to pass it over for 6 minutes, and we'll pass the floor over to Sonia Sidhu. Sonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm splitting my time with Emanuela. And thank you, Minister Ian, for being with us today. And I know you're working very hard on the ground for women and girls across this country. Minister, we heard from the witnesses, the early intervention is important for young women and girls with intersecting identities who experience unique mental health challenges. I know you are also the Minister for Youth. Can you please expand on that, the importance of culturally relevant supports, and then how early intervention is important for young women and girls to help them?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Such an important one. It is about early intervention. Young people these days are bombarded by social media. They face so many issues at school, in their spaces, and so it's about meeting them where they are. And so, first and foremost, I want to put a spotlight on Kids Help Phone. Why don't we start there? When I say meeting kids where they are, the $14.8 million that was provided to Kids Help Phone meant that kids could text. Kids could text. This is what they do. They could get in touch. They could pick up the phone wherever they are. When we talk about intersecting, the intersectionality of this, racialized, Indigenous, Black, we need to know that help has to be available 24 hours a day. Kids Help Phone does that. Crisis helplines do that. Why is that important? Because if they are faced with an abuser within their household or in the space that they're in, they can send a text. They are able to call, and we see this because I've seen the numbers in the middle of the night when there is availability 24 hours a day, and get help, get the help that they need. On an intersectional, one more thing, if I might, the 2S LGBTQ community. About a year ago, I met with Burqa Gupta. They operate the LGBTQ youth line. It's a hotline. Burqa wanted to be what they didn't have, because when she was no longer welcomed in her family, she didn't really have a place to reach out. She created this youth line so that young people could call. They were part of the $20 million capacity funding. They were able to use that funding to expand to rural, to expand to other places outside of the urban areas in this country. And you talk about intersectionality, Burqa is on the front line. They hear it all. They have trauma-informed crisis counselors on those lines to help everybody that calls in whenever they might call or text.
Thank you. Over to Manuela, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sonia. Minister, thank you for being with us today to answer our questions. And we know that this is an important topic for you as well. We hear it in your voice that you're passionate about it. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Early on in the study, we heard directly from a young lady who has attempted to take her life several times and knows the struggle of depression all too well. She spoke to us about the need to include young people when coming up with a plan to help youth who are struggling with mental health issues, as they are the ones who know what they need more than anybody else. What are we doing to ensure that young girls have access to mental health services? And are we consulting our young people when coming up with a plan to give additional supports to this population?
Nothing for us without us. And that's what I've heard right across this country. I'm the vice chair of the Prime Minister's Youth Council. And might I say that that council doesn't mince words. Mental health has been the priority, is the priority. There was a State of the Youth report as well that puts that squarely as the top priority for young people, women, girls across this country. When we look at what we need to do, it's important to not start when young women and girls are 14, 15, 16 years old. It's also important, and I hear this from the Youth Council and young people that I speak to across this country, to include men and boys. As an elder said to me a while ago, an eagle cannot fly with one wing. And she was talking about gender-based violence, young women and girls, and also including men and boys. So I want to highlight right now how important it is to have programs and services that address gender-based violence, address mental health at a young age, not for just young women, but for boys and for men. I was in Nova Scotia last week, and there is an organization called Guys Work, grades 6 to 12, in schools right across the board, right across Nova Scotia. They do excellent work. Here's what I was hearing. The boys that attend, grade 6, this is a safe space. I can be who I am. They talk about masculinity, what it means, how to help, how to engage with girls, young women. It's amazing. You cannot have one without the other, nothing without us.
Go ahead, finish that last line. Go ahead, Marcy.
I was just going to say nothing for us without us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're now going to pass the floor over to Adrienne. Adrienne, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Minister, for being with us today. It is a sad day, however. I would like to start by reminding you that there was a 14th femicide in Quebec, and it occurred in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, close to where I live. And I would like to start by offering my most sincere condolences and my support to Donna Callahan and to her family. And this happened at the start of our days of action against gender-based violence, and there will be a commemoration shortly for the shooting at Polytechnique where women were killed simply for being women. Witnesses have told us about how what we talk about has an impact on their mental health. But Madam Minister, in previous questions, you were asked about the National Action Plan to put an end to gender-based violence. You had a meeting last week with the provinces and territories. The provinces approved, except for the Government of Quebec, because the Government of Quebec stated that they support the elements of the action plan, but did not sign it because they want to continue to be responsible for matters that fall under their jurisdiction, and they expect financial compensation from the government for their own services. Will your government and your department commit to supporting Quebec entirely?
Merci, Paulette.
Thank you very much for the question. It is an important question.
It was a privilege and a pleasure to have excellent conversations prior to the meeting in Nova Scotia last week with my counterpart in Quebec. Madame Véran est excellente.
Madame Véran is excellent.
She knows what the province of Quebec needs. We will always work and always partner with Quebec. We are looking forward to a bilateral and negotiations with Quebec. The action plan to end gender-based violence and budget, the last budget in 2021 included $3 billion over 5 years to advance initiatives to prevent violence. And that includes money that has gone to Quebec. We are not new to this. We look forward to those negotiations. Quebec was a full partner at the table. Madame Véran was represented extremely, extremely well. The conversations went extremely well, and I look forward to the next steps.
I also have the intention to meet with Ms. Véran soon, because I had already spoken with the former minister, and I asked you this question specifically because you know, Madam Minister, that when the government interferes with the province's business, it slows things down. For example, during the pandemic, the federal government invested funding, and I spoke with the departments of Women's Affairs and other departments in Quebec, and there were delays of up to 6 months. Do you find it acceptable that if Quebec already has the capacity to act on mental health, we are a model, We have a report with hundreds of recommendations with the Rebuilding Trust report. You took women who were victims of violence hostage during the pandemic. So will you send these transfers right away? Because this is a request from the provinces and Quebec.
Encore merci.
Thank you again for your question.
To draw your attention to the height of the pandemic, because I think it speaks to what you're speaking to here. During the pandemic, Quebec received approximately 17 million of the funding, the 100 million that was given to shelter organizations, to on-the-ground organizations. We have an excellent a relationship with Quebec. We have shown that when Quebec needs to be supported, it will be supported. We have signed agreements and we will sign more. But this is not something that we're new to the table at. We understand the urgency. Quebec understands the urgency. Madame Berrand and her team understand the urgency, and we will always be at the table.
10 seconds.
Madame la ministre,
Madam Minister, what happened during the pandemic happened because you tried to put conditions on these funds. And it's not me saying this, it's the former Minister of the Status of Women. And I imagine that the new minister will also say something similar.
Any response?
I would just say that I look forward to the negotiations, and as always, we remain at the table.
Excellent. We're now going to turn it over for 6 minutes to Lisa Marie Brand. Lisa, you've got the floor. Lisa Marie?
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to the Minister. I'm happy to be here today for this important work. And I want to first send my regrets from my colleague, MP Leah Gazan, who is unfortunately unable to be here today, but is, of course, going to be watching back this entire meeting, I'm sure, closely. My first question today, on November the 20th this week, it will be the Transgender Day of Remembrance, and feel it's important for us to talk about this when we are looking at mental health of young women and girls. We know that transgendered youth face much higher risks and rates of mental illness than youth in general. The Ontario chapter of the Canadian Mental Health Association, for example, quoted LGBT, 2S LGBTQIA plus youth as 14 times the risk of suicide and substance misuse than their heterosexual counterparts, with transgendered youth accounting for 77% of those seriously considering suicide. Those numbers are really appalling and concerning, and wanted to bring them forward because I know that recently, Minister, there was a 2S LGBTQIA action plan that was put forward, which can be applauded, of course, for the work that's happening in the right direction. But we also know we're hearing from the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity, Wisdom to Action Executive Director Faye Johnston, the Enchanté Network, who are talking about some critical gaps, flaws, lack of funding integrated within the plan specific to the unique challenges experienced by transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people. There's also some gaps being highlighted around the need for disaggregated data to better understand the unique experiences of transgendered youth. I'm wondering if the Minister, if you could please address how you and your government plan on addressing the critical gaps and demands identified by 2S LGBTQIA plus individuals that end up leaving queer and trans people behind, and why this hasn't been developed long ago. Thank you.
Lisa Marie, thank you so much for the question. And that is precisely what the 2S LGBTQI plus action plan is about. It was built by community. It was built by grassroots organizations, $100 million. And I'm so happy to hear you talk about disaggregated data, because it is something I preach 24 hours a day. So in that plan, $75 million of that plan went to organizations on the ground, Enchanté included, and others. 25 million, that's where the disaggregated data comes in, and support for the 2S LGBTQI plus Secretariat. We know we need the data. And thank you also for acknowledging Trans Awareness Week, which starts today. And of course, the day is on the 20th, as you said. I proudly represent Toronto Centre. As the Member of Parliament for Toronto Centre, I serve those in Church Wellesley, the historic gay village. And this plan and serving them well means a lot to me personally. Here's what I'll tell you. On Saturday, I was at the 519, and on behalf of Minister Lametti, Parliamentary Secretary Ananda Sangari and I stood beside a young man who fled his homeland of Jamaica, is a refugee here, and is now one of the executives at the 519. We were there to announce just under $1 million. His speech, because this $1 million will go towards helping trans people with regards to justice issues. He outlined very well how important it was to have trauma-informed counselors and advisors on hand. He outlined very well how the trans community, as you mentioned, has to deal with violence, police brutality, mental health issues at a far greater rate than, frankly, anybody else. This just under $1 million that we announced is going to help with that. It's going to provide support with regards to justice, with regards to help, with regards to wraparound support. I hear all too often, after members of the trans community are hurt in any way, they're afraid to walk into hospitals because they don't know what kind of treatment they might get there. These issues are systemic, and we cannot fix systems overnight, but we can hit that, work away every single day to make things better. Every single day. I so appreciate your question.
You have 15 seconds.
Oh, wow, that went very quickly. I guess then if I only have 15 seconds, I'm just going to highlight how much I appreciate the attention that you're paying to the needs of transgendered youth and young people, and really look forward to working together to identify the gaps in the hopes that we can start making the lives of those better. Thank you.
We're now going to pass it over for our second round, and we will start our second round off with Anna Roberts. Anna, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister Ian, for participating today. So I have a two-part question. And being new to the committee, maybe you could explain to me, the first part is the Youth Council. When did they last meet, and what is their progress?
Are you talking about the Prime Minister's Youth Council or my personal Youth Council in Toronto Centre?
Both.
Okay. My personal youth council in Toronto Centre meets monthly. We have a meeting coming up. We like to focus on specific goals. So right now we're focusing on food security. We are as well focused on identifying those that might help in our community with regards to that. So for example, I have a university in my riding that grows food on its rooftops. So my youth council will be getting in touch with said university to find out how food that isn't sold or is left over or just food can be used to help our communities. So my youth council, my Toronto Centre Youth Council, focuses on community issues, and food security is the one that we've chosen, Anna, and that's what we'll be working on in the coming months. With regards to the Prime Minister's Youth Council, we last met this past August, and I am in touch via text, via social media, with many of the members all the time.
So my second question, which is in conjunction with my first question. So I'm an individual that has had personal experience with youth violence many, 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 many years ago. And there's no discussion about housing. So when we have young women and young youth that are in an atmosphere that is detrimental to their health, their well-being, how is the government working with the provinces to ensure that the social network and the social services of the provinces work together to ensure that the youth and the violence against youth and women are not escalated? And I can tell you from my personal experience, I haven't seen a huge improvement.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
I so appreciate this opportunity to speak about that, because when it comes to youth mental health, it's important that those that would take care of young people, parents, guardians, caregivers of any sort, are well supported. Because here's what I know as a mom of two: if I'm stressed in any way, if my mental health, and it has been challenged, is challenged in any way, my kids feel it. So first and foremost, it is supporting those that support our young people. And that's exactly what we're doing. So when it comes to housing, providing support for the lowest income earners, rental support for the lowest income earners, means something, makes a difference. I was born in St. Jamestown, which is part of the riding that I serve. And it is all apartment buildings. It is mostly immigrant families trying to do the best they can, most of whom, by the way, working on the front lines. And help with rent goes a long way. Help with, dental care so that kids 12 and under can go to the dentist helps.
Oh, okay.
It helps.
Sorry to interrupt. My time is limited, and I want to get this question in. So,
Sure.
Here is the situation. If we don't understand the cultures where these youth and young women come from, and then we send in Children's Aid to provide them homes through foster care or whatever situation, if that situation is not dealt with quickly on a timely manner, the abuse continues. And the reason I ask that question is because how do we train the individuals that are supposed to support our young and youth to ensure that there's not repeat violence?
And I'm not
Minister
sure I
Ian, I'm going
understand
to give
when
you
you
about
say,
I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to respond because we're a little over time, so about 20 seconds.
appreciate you, Chair. I just want to understand what cultures they come from means. What does that mean?
So if there's certain cultures that have certain beliefs, if we interact with those cultures not understanding the cultures, we put the youth and the young women at risk.
Certain cultures that have certain beliefs, like what, Anna?
For example, there is certain cultures where women and young youth do not have a say in the family home.
Okay, first of all, I really, really appreciate, I love this line of questioning where it's going, but it's taking away from every single other person.
Okay.
So we can't expand this anymore.
problem.
Sorry about that. I'm going to
okay.
take this time and turn it over to Jenna for your 5 minutes. And perhaps Anna and Marcy, you guys can talk about that, but thanks.
Happy to.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Minister Ian, for all of your hard work and for being here with us today. We've talked a little bit, there was some questioning that started down the line of what was happening with respect to the National Action Plan to End Gender-Based Violence. And I don't think we should underscore what a monumental achievement this National Action Plan is. And I'd really love if you could take a few moments to dive a little deeper into the impacts of violence on mental health for young women and girls, and the impact or the outcome that this National Action Plan to end gender-based violence will have for these young women and girls?
Jenna, thank you so much for the question. And it is not a small thing to have all provinces and territories sign on to something like this. It's not a small thing. It's a monumental thing, as you point out. And the impact is huge, and it will be huge. We have seen through this pandemic who was disproportionately impacted. And women and girls, and then you put an intersectional lens on that, were at, the head of the pack, which is why our government responded the way it did. $500 million towards ending gender-based violence. And I have to reiterate that this was born, and we would not be at this point. It's a community that came together and told us. Grassroots organizations, survivors who said, this is my story. How can we do better? That's what this provinces who said, we really appreciate the way these discussions are going, but we need to go back to our Indigenous leaders in our various provinces and territories and talk to them, because this is about inclusivity. It's about getting it right. It's about doing it right. It's about saving lives. I cannot underscore enough how this is going to impact women, girls, men, boys across this country. One example, if I might. Velma's house. Velma's house in Winnipeg Center, Leah Gazan's riding. When I visited last summer, there were women under the porch, on the porch. It was capacity inside. It is a house that is low barrier, accepts anybody, whether they have addictions, mental health issues, whatever, they're accepted, except they were full. Weeks ago, Patty Haidu, Minister of Indigenous Services, and I, Leah was so instrumental, and others as well, were able to provide $1 million from our ministry to keep the doors open for a time being. And then Minister Haidu, $2 million for Velma's house to buy a Ronald McDonald house that was bigger, that would give them the opportunity to help more women, have trauma-informed supporters, counselors. They are moving shortly. We made the announcement in the new Ronald McDonald House, the center where they will be. Lives will be saved. That day, survivors spoke. Survivors who are on the streets, who found Velma's, and who are now counselors themselves. That is one of many, many places that will be served by this action plan. There's so many others, but happy to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ian. And that's a fantastic example. I know of many and many more to come. I think we have about a minute left.
You've got about 13 seconds, actually, because you're a 5-minute block.
Okay. Well, maybe for the benefit of my colleagues, I did want to touch on the funding that you've announced for crisis hotlines and an update on that. Maybe someone else will pick up that very important question as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we absolutely will. Adrienne, you've got 2.5 minutes here.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again to the Minister for talking to us about our study on the mental health of young women and girls. In your answers, you've said that your department funds many programs for protection, but because Quebec has its own measures and its own network for mental health and links with social services in Quebec, would it not be better for women and girls in Quebec that the government of Quebec manage the funds and the programs instead of having everything be done twice.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
We have been pleased to sign agreements with Quebec. We are always pleased to be at the table with Quebec. As I said, my counterpart, Minister Biron, is, as was her team, actively participating. We were actively listening, exchanging important information, exchanging ideas, and I look forward to doing this. We will begin negotiations. We will always, always be at the table for Quebec and for each and every province and territory across this country.
À voir pour être sûr que ça retarde pas.
Hopefully it won't slow everything down, which often happens. But I would like to come back to sexual violence because there is a link between domestic violence and mental health. When you came to testify during our study on domestic violence, I stated that a lot of witnesses said that they want a stable and recurrent funding to respond to the needs. There are many organizations in mental health that have made these same requests. In Quebec, there are community organizations on mental health that receive funding from the government of Quebec. But if the federal government would increase transfers, that would allow the provinces to support the community organizations and their work with victims.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
And as we have seen during the pandemic, and we were able to transfer monies needed, we will always be at the table with Quebec. I completely understand and empathize with those that you're speaking of.
Perfect.
And we are there for them. And
Thank
we'll
you
be there
so
for
much.
them.
We're now going to turn it over to Lisa Marie. Lisa, you have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Minister. I was pleased to hear you talking about Velma's place in, of course, my colleague MP Leah Kazan's riding of Winnipeg Centre. And just want to acknowledge how much I'm celebrating that work, as it has been a critical call from the community for years to support women and gender diverse individuals. And it's through that leadership and advocacy from the community that made this happen. So I'm happy to see the action that has resulted from that community advocacy and that funding that has resulted. So a big applause on that. I wanted to ask a question about missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirited people. Some context, and I know that this story is definitely not in isolation. My friend and also a local Indigenous woman from Nanaimo, based out of Nanaimo, of course, Lisa Marie Young went missing in 2002 at the age of 21 years old, and will tell you that her family and loved ones continue to search for her, continue to have marches in awareness of her, and it's so sad to see that there are still no answers as to what happened to her. And there are just so many stories, as you know, I'm sure you're hearing them, of other women and girls going missing with no answers. And I wanted to see if you could speak to the $724.1 million that has been allocated as part of the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls that has been, as I'm sure you're aware, largely unused to date. As my colleague said, there's money sitting in the docket while women, girls, and 2S LGBTQIA plus individuals continue to die. I'm wondering if you can provide some specific timelines and commitments as to when this money is going to be spent, how it's going to be spent, and can we, how it's going to be spent is the final question there. Thank you very much, Minister.
30 seconds to respond.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Lisa Marie, thank you so very much. And listen, the violence that we see all over this country is I don't even want to say heartbreaking, because it's more than heartbreaking. We wholeheartedly in a fulsome way, support the MMIWG action plan, and we supplement it with our national action plan to end gender-based violence.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're now going to go into our final round. So in our final round, there's only 2 questions because this is the final for this. We'll give 4 minutes to Michelle Frary and 4 minutes to Mark Saray. Okay? In your time. Go ahead, 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here. I know you deeply care, as we all do. Minister Ian, under the Liberals, when it comes to childhood welfare, we have fallen from 10th to 30th place. How do you respond to that?
Michelle, it is about, as I said before, supporting the caregivers, right? As a mom, I know my children don't do well if I'm not doing well. And I'm speaking from a mental standpoint.
I want to be quick and I want to get through as many questions as I can, but under your government, under the Liberals, we have fallen 20 spots. So what can be done differently? What are we missing? Why have we fallen so much? I understand that. So are you saying we're failing in caring for our caregivers?
I'm saying that it matters how we take care of our caregivers and also our kids. So last week, I was at Acadia University in Wolfville, and I was talking about the fact that we have now eliminated interest on student loans, of course, for the federal portion. And when I spoke about that, I spoke about mental health, because I know what it's like to be in school and know that you have a burden of debt, to know that you've got to work a job, to know that you can't ask your family for anything else. And that impacts mental health. I had conversations with kids after who said, thanks for mentioning that, because that's exactly
Minister Ian, I appreciate this. I have to get through as much as I can. I think we all are aware of that. I guess I was asking a direct question of what specifically has happened. We are 35th under 38th in teen mental health and suicide. And 35th out of 38.
We continue to support our teens and our young people. And that's exactly what
that's what I think people need to hear right now, Minister Ian, is that we can do better. I think that's what people really need to hear from you. I know you care. I know you care. I know you're a mom. I know this is important to you. But I think people need to hear a bit more. We had the highest use of food banks in history. In history. We had Mr. Owen Charters here from Boys and Girls Club. The cost of living, inflation, is a massive stressor on our children. It is downloaded to them. It is impacting their mental health. So when you say you have a dental plan that nobody is going to be held accountable for, there's going to be no audit for that dental plan. It's a check going to parents, which is increasing to inflationary spending. That is a problem. November 20th is the National Day of the Child. Minister, I know, I watched you work, and this is a tough conversation, but people need to hear that you...
It's a conversation, Michelle, that I have every single day, and I'm having it with young people. I'm having it with people that
But it is worse. Things are worse.
Okay, time out. As the chair, okay. So the time it goes to the questioner, but Miss Marcy, of course, I'll give you time to respond. This is a really important topic, and I really appreciate everybody on this. Michelle, carry on.
Of course.
Thank you. And it is tough. You know, I don't want to push this as that you don't care, because I can't stress that enough. I know you do, but things are worse. And so I guess the number one question I would say to you is to call it a dental benefit that you are shipping out to parents. Is there going to be an audit or any accountability? A dentist asks me this weekend, how will you show that people are spending that check on dental?
Miss Ian, I'll give you 25 seconds to respond to everything there, because her time is up. Okay, I know, I know. Go ahead.
It's hard to respond to everything in 25 seconds, but how about I do this? We are talking about systems here, and you don't break them down overnight. The reason I ran was to be part of a system that I could help change, and that is work on a daily basis. It's listening to the people that are actually living this life. And you know what, Michelle, if you put an intersectional lens on everything that you're talking about, Black and Indigenous kids and families, 2S LGBTQI+, people and their families and communities, it's all exacerbated, and
Awesome.
we know that. But
Thank
day
you
by day, we do the work.
Thank you very much, Minister. We're now to our last part. It's 4 minutes with Mark Saray. Mark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, for all the work you've done and for all the the immense work that is needed to moving forward. And if we're looking at specific results, specific actions, I'll follow up on a question asked earlier about my colleague Jenna Suds. So you made the announcement last summer related to the crisis line, responding to gender-based violence across Canada. So I just wanted an opportunity here specifically to update the committee, the signed bilateral agreement that was done with each of the provinces. Congratulations for that hard work with the provinces. And just to see how this bilateral agreement will help more women at risk get the need that they desperately need.
Merci pour la question, Mark. So appreciate this question. In Nova Scotia last week, $700,000 is what we put forward for the crisis lines there, and of course the province doing its share. My provincial counterpart, Minister McFarlane. The most important thing about that announcement, though, was hearing from people on the ground, hearing from those who work the lines, are there when people call in. And one such person was Anna. And what Anna said to me after the press conference was that what this means is that somebody is there on the other end of a line 24 hours a day. And she could not stress that enough because there weren't enough people. There weren't enough people in place for rural calls. And what they found was a lot of these calls were coming in the middle of the night when they didn't necessarily have staff there and trauma-informed staff. And this funding will help with that. The other part of this, Mark, is that 8% of the people calling into these lines are now men and young men. And here's what they're saying. I am not feeling well. I think I might hurt my partner. I think I might hurt somebody. I need help. They're calling in to ask for help. This is how important crisis lines are, not just for young women and girls, but men and boys as well. And we're seeing the numbers and we're seeing the difference already that this is going to make.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre. Aussi, nous avons entendu.
Thank you, Madam Minister. We heard about the Horizon Center in Sturgeon Falls during COVID, and our government will be giving funds to the organizations, and the province also gave funds, so there was a 50-50 matching for those funds. They were very concerned, and so the federal government showed leadership and supported the provinces. And can you tell us more about the role that provinces have to work with the federal government to ensure that the National Action Plan for Women be implemented as quickly as possible?
Seconds. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And yes, the negotiations, and excuse my dog, I'm so sorry. The negotiations are about to take place. As I mentioned before, Mark, with regards to the action plan, the floor is $2 million from a federal perspective for provinces. The floor is $4 million, at least $4 million for territories. And again, it's coming together. 80% of these recommendations were made by provinces and territories. And so coming together to the table and understanding that each province and territory is unique. Perfect. And bringing that to the table.
Thank you so much. So we have now wrapped up our first hour. I would really like to thank, on behalf of the committee, thank you very much, Minister Ian, for coming, and special thank you to Ms. Smiley and Ms. McRae for being here as well. We're going to suspend for just seconds. We have Minister Bennett just about to join us, so we'll suspend for about a minute. If you want to grab something and come back to your seats, suspend. There we go.
Merci.
Call this meeting back to order. Thank you so much. On our second panel today, I would like to welcome the Honourable Carolyn Bennett, Minister for Mental Health and Addictions. And from the Department of Health, we have Heather Jeffrey, Associate Deputy Minister, and we also have Eric Belair, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic Policy Branch. And from the Public Health Agency of Canada, Candace St-Aubin, Vice President, Health Promotion and Chronic Disease Prevention Branch. So I see here we've got, we'll start off with our first 5 minutes with Minister Bennett. Minister Bennett, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Merci. J'aimerais commencer par...
Thank you. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people who have been stewards of this land and water since time immemorial.
Je suis heureuse.
I am pleased to be here today to speak to this truly timely study examining the factors contributing to mental health of young women and girls.
Les femmes et les filles sont...
Women and girls are significantly more likely to report low life satisfaction, have more problematic social media use, and are hospitalized for anxiety, depression, and eating disorders more often when compared to their male peers.
It was over 70 years ago, the Canadian war vet and psychiatrist Dr. Brock Chisholm, who I heard a really neat interview with this weekend, the first Director General of the WHO stated that without mental health, there can be no true physical health. And I think that we are now really facing a problem with stigma, that it's resulted in way too many people struggling with mental health alone. It's also, but I do think there's hope, because I think COVID has allowed more of us to admit that when we're struggling, admit maybe to a little bit more substance than usual, and talk about our own mental health. So that is something that helps the stigma be reduced, and because stigma is such a serious barrier to care. But as you've heard in these hearings, the care has to be there when people need it. And sadly, during this time when so many more people, Canadians, needed support, that support was all too often not included in our cherished publicly funded healthcare system. Since 2015, we have made historic investments to support mental health. The $5 billion to the provinces and territories to increase the availability of mental health, another $600 million for distinction-based mental health and wellness for Indigenous people, $270 million for the Wellness Together portal, and $45 million to develop national standards, and then many other targeted investments in substance use and mental health promotion innovation. The $5 billion investment through the provincial and territorial bilateral agreements is currently providing $600 million of additional funding until 2027. We want you to know that we remain totally committed to investing the additional $4.5 billion through Canada Mental Health Transfer, and that we are working with the Standards Council of Canada and our provincial and territorial partners to develop national standards for evidence-based mental health and addiction services on the priority areas identified with our provincial and territorial colleagues. we are particularly encouraged by the incredible early progress on national standards for integrated youth services. Last week, the FPT Health Ministers meeting, we visited the Foundry in Vancouver, Van Grant, which started the IYS movement in Canada. And I just have to say that the privilege of meeting this young woman, a refugee from Saudi Arabia, who has found her confidence, a second family, and all of the social and mental health supports to positively transform her outlook on her path forward as a lesbian. That is the transformational power of integrated youth services. It was then wonderful the next day to join, represented on Wednesday, from every single province and territory as the IYS movement is now growing to serve young people up to the age of 25 with individual, multidisciplinary, evidence-based wraparound services that are trauma-informed, culturally safe, and designed for and by young people coast to coast to coast. I'm also pleased to say that the online portal Wellness Together Canada, linked with Kids Health Phone and its companion app PocketWell, has assisted thousands of young Canadians to get the help they need, both directly, but also as a stepping stone to receive the resources and advice and where they can achieve more specialized care. We welcome, of course, the CRTC decision approving the new 988 three-digit suicide prevention line and working to ensure that it has the capacity for a successful launch next fall. So we want all of you to know that you can help, that the help is, we're not waiting for the help. It's at 1-833-456-4566, and we want to demonstrate to Canadians that we share their concerns. We've been listening to those who lived and living experience, the experts, the people on the front line, but we need the disaggregated data to show that we are leaving no one behind. Je suis impatient de développer.
I look forward to say more after answering your questions.
Sure. We're now going to start our 6-minute rounds. I'm going to pass the floor over to Michelle Ferry for the first 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. Appreciate your time. Minister, the fall economic statement came out, and I'm wondering how you feel about the fact that the word mental health was mentioned only 3 times.
As you know, the fall economic statement is an update on changes that are happening. I think our commitment to mental health and substance use has been unwavering. It's what we do every day. Now, as a separate minister for mental health and addiction, this is what I think there's an exciting change in not only what we're doing, but how we're going about it in that partnership with provinces and territories, municipalities, and especially listening to those with lived and living experience and the people on the front line of this parallel epidemic.
Okay, it's good to hear that you say that the Liberals have unwavering support. So I guess the question would be that you're okay with it being mentioned 3 times then, but the Liberal commitments, as you know, and I'll read this for you, commit to permanent ongoing funding for mental health services under the Canada Mental Health Transfer with an initial investment of $4.5 billion over 5 years, including the existing bilateral agreement on mental health services signed in 2017. This would bring federal support for mental health services to $2.5 billion per year by 2025 to 2026. This, in addition to further investments we'll make to support First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities, will better access to trauma and mental health services. Can you give everyone at this committee an update on where that $4.5 billion is?
So as I said in my remarks, the $5 billion is there from the 2017 to 2027. That means that there is an additional $600 million going to provinces and territories every year. Where we are now working with provinces and territories to build that action plan so that we will make sure that the data is there and the results will be there as we invest the next $4.5 billion. And that's the work we're doing on national standards. It's the exciting work that's happening on integrated youth services.
Sorry, Minister. I'm sorry, but I have to be quick because we only have so much time. So just to clarify, the election promise of the $4.5 billion is gone. It's not off the table. You're going back then to say that it's from 2017. So that 2021 election promise of $4.5 billion doesn't exist?
Oh, it exists. Absolutely. the $5 billion was 2017 to 2027, and now there is the work being done to make sure that that 4.5 billion will be distributed to provinces and territories within an action plan that will be part of the mental health transfer.
Could you table what that action plan is or when they're going to see it? I mean, we've seen a lot of witnesses in this committee and multiple committees, quite frankly, that have sort of waited on bated breath because we've heard even from your colleague prior to helping and supporting frontline workers who are burnt out, this money is a matter of life and death that you've promised. So where is that action plan?
The action plan is about transformation. It's about changing the way we've done things. It is about putting mental health as a full and equal part of our most cherished social service. And so that means that when in the changes that took place in cost containment, when social workers and occupational therapists, psychologists got moved out of hospitals, that moved into the private sector and into the social services sector. We want this back inside, and it is taking that kind of work, listening to the people on the front lines to ensure that the $4.5 billion will actually be part of that change, as it has been with the integrated youth services. This is just so inspiring, Michelle, and I hope everybody will get to go and see an IYS center, and of course Ontario and Quebec have been very much in the forefront, taking the lead as well from the Foundry and Dr. Stephen Mathias in British Columbia.
The Foundry is absolutely an amazing place. I was able to.
Yeah, I forgot you went to see it.
I was able to go visit it,
yeah,
but I think people, with all due respect, Minister Bennett, would really disagree with that. It is inspiring when you have people who are dying on waiting lists, when you have people who are choosing MAID instead of having access to treatment. We need recovery centers. We need treatment centers. I've been very vocal to you about this, about Peterborough Kawartha. We have, upwards of 20 people a day dying from overdoses. Where is the plan? Where is the strategy to, one, intervene, but to offer a place of treatment and recovery?
So, as you know, the treatment and recovery is a provincial service delivery. What we're trying to do as the federal government is take the pressure off that by using the money that we are sending in substance use and addictions programs, mental health innovation promotion, to be able to lift up the 3 million people that are using Wellness Together that was put in place because
you say
of the
that it would
surge.
be important on a national level as a federal government to implement a strategy. Eating disorders, as you mentioned, youth mental health, that if untreated properly develops into addiction, that we would have access to treatment and recovery. Would that not make sense on a national level? When we talk about national framework, which you've been very vocal about, that we have a treatment and recovery plan in place?
So I think, Michelle, what we're saying is that the integrated youth services is that interdisciplinary plan that is the future of health and healthcare. That is a
Fantastic.
different
Thank
way
you
of
very
doing
much.
things, including the peer support.
Thank you
which
very
is
much.
so
We're
exciting.
now going to move our time over to Anita Vandenbelt. I'm going to try to be very cautious with time because I know that there's so much in this. So when I do interrupt, that means quiet in the room. And we'll get everything organized if you don't mean. Anita, you had the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Minister, for being here today on this very important study on the mental health of young women and girls. And I think the fact that you are a federal dedicated minister just for mental health shows the incredible importance that our government puts on this issue of mental health. And I'd like to pick up on something that you said in your opening remarks about national standards for integrated youth services. You said that you gave an example about how this has the potential to be truly transformative. My understanding of it is that this is a way of combining community-based health and social services with online tools and resources and creating kind of a one-stop shop. I wonder if you could explain a little bit more about this and about where we're going with that.
What's exciting about it, Anita, is that really it began just 5 or 6 years ago with one stop in Van Gran, and is now up to 25 sites. And it is the future, because it's a stepped care model. People get the most appropriate care in the most appropriate place by the most appropriate provider at the most appropriate time, and one of the appropriate places is virtual. But as that young person walks in the door, they're greeted by a peer support person, somebody who with lived and living experience. They have a primary care provider. If they need a social worker, a psychologist, even an addiction medicine specialist, even virtually or online, need help with housing, need help with education, help getting a job. This is all, but it's uniquely wrapped around, and it's integrated into the rest of the system. So if they've been to Emerge on Friday night, their primary care provider knows that. And so it is what we've got to do. And I have to say, Anita, as you know, our friend Dr. Karen Breek once said to me, as the physician for the snowbird, she says, why don't the veterans have this? So I hope one day we'll be able to get that kind of wraparound supports for really everybody. But what also is exciting is this is 0 to 25. Or 12 to 25. So it means that we are, there's already a consensus that you can't let kids drop off the map at 18 in a pediatric setting, that this is right to 25, and it includes a lot of their challenges with post-secondary or other challenges that they're facing, including gender identity.
And one of the things that you just mentioned in terms of having social services and health supports and other kinds of supports, why is it important that when we're having this conversation, we're not just talking to mental health professionals, but we are talking to teachers, to social workers. We are talking about the peer support, that we engage everyone in a holistic way, as opposed to sort of looking at it just piecemeal and just focusing in on the mental health and not on the whole person.
It's a really good question. I mean, a lot of the children with or youth with serious challenges may be in a group home. You actually have to have everyone who is able to help that young person thrive. And as we heard from the young woman last Tuesday in Van Gran, that this is family, and it is a place where it's safe, that people feel safe. But as we know, the medical model, I mean, Tommy Douglas said a long time ago, we shouldn't be waiting for people to get sick and then patch them up, which is the medicine wheel, keeping people in balance medically, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so this is an approach which is holistic and individualized care, and I think it's very exciting. It's also evidence-based. The CIHR is studying each of these, and I think that we'll be able to show how cost-effective it is too.
We've heard a lot in this committee about intersectionality, and that people's differing identities impact significantly their mental health, and whether or not they're having mental health crisis or get the supports that they need. You mentioned veterans earlier, but there's also, of course, another group of people in Canada which is under federal responsibility, which are Indigenous peoples. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the particular needs and crisis that is affecting Indigenous young women and girls, and some of the things that we're able to do about that as well.
Well, as you know, a lot of the intergenerational trauma has had a terrible effect in terms of people, but without parenting, residential schools, but then, with children being apprehended and taken out of their language and culture. And so everything we're trying to do now is to make sure that if the mom needs some help, that there's someone in the community that can, the healthy auntie, a healthy grandparent that can wrap around the care while mom gets some help, or how we don't take that child out of the community. We also then know that as we that in the wonderful summit that Minister Haiju had just after Parliament resumed, that in that Indigenous Mental Wellness Summit, it was inspiring to see all of these programs, Indigenous-led programs that people know are working. And so it's very important that we are supporting Indigenous ways of knowing and doing, and whether it's on the land, whether it's the importance of language and culture, all of those things, I think, and also the fact that within their school systems, it has to be led that way.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move over for the next 6 minutes to Adrienne LaRoche. Adrienne, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Minister, thank you for being with us and for testifying to our committee. We've heard many things during our study on mental health, and a lot of these things are horrible. Groups are asking for support. And I will come back to the matter of funding, because you talk about funds that the federal government wants to invest in mental health, but I would like to remind you, Madam Minister, that this is of provincial jurisdiction, and you're talking about funds, and I think it would be much better invested in transfers. Quebec stated that it wants funds without conditions. In your mandate letter, you talk about national action plans and national standards. Quebec doesn't want this. And worse even, I wonder, Madam Minister, what you have as competencies that the ministry in Quebec that manages the healthcare system and manages hospitals and social services groups, what competencies do you have that Quebec doesn't?
Je pense que les questions.
I think that Quebec's leadership in daycares, in social services for youth, it is very important to share best practices and to listen to challenges and examine solutions in all provinces and territories. Last Wednesday, during a meeting with the Federation for Integrated Youth Services, the province of Quebec was there. Their leadership is so important. Funds for integrated youth services in Quebec are very important, and they're important for the whole country. With agreements with the provinces and territories and with the agreements from 2017 for years to come, these represent a partnership. Health and healthcare services are important for all levels of government, but health services are under provincial jurisdiction. But, Madam Minister, you must know that by trying to implement standards when you know that Quebec and the provinces don't want them, and we saw this last week, the federal government tried to negotiate bilateral agreements with provinces and Quebec to try to divide and conquer. And the response was no, and their demands stand. And with the increase of cases, Quebec could put this money invested into the health system and reduce wait lists and invest in community organizations that already have plans to work with people, work with victims. What you're doing is taking people who are suffering hostage, and these people are suffering deeply. I am extremely concerned to see this federal government's paternalistic attitude that thinks that having these standards will solve issues of the healthcare system, most notably for mental health care. Madam Minister, I will ask again, when will you accept to send funding to the provinces and Quebec without conditions. Because I'll say it again, Quebec will not accept any conditions to have a national standard on mental health. They want an increase in transfers, a substantial increase up to 35%. That is the demand in order to help them help people on the field. And we can come back on my next turn on what the federal government can do, but I would like to hear you speak on that demand, because from what we heard last week, you haven't listened to the requests from Quebec and the provinces. Answer. I hope that the discussions on human resources in the healthcare system and for data will be mentioned, but francophones in Quebec, physicians, nurses, it's important. Yes, but Madam Minister, there was nothing in the economic statement 2 weeks ago. There was nothing to respond to the urgent demands to invest in the healthcare system. You're trying to negotiate agreements, but you have the opportunity to say that we are coming out of a crisis and it is important to not cut and to instead invest.
We will be able to come back to you, Minister Bennett, in the next round with that. I'm going to pass it over to Lisa Marie for 6 minutes. You've got the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Minister for being here today. I wanted to first confirm some information that I have just to make sure that we're talking about the same information. The $4.5 billion over 5 years that was promised around the mental health transfers that you're talking about, when was that promised? When was that first allocated into a budget? What budget was it?
So the $5 billion in 2017 goes for 10 years, and now each of the provinces and territories are receiving $600 million more than that is dedicated for mental health and substance use, like in the integrated youth services. So the 4.5 that was promised in the platform, that is what we're working on now with provinces and territories, to be able to have an action plan that will be, I think, a little bit closer to what's in the child care agreements, where there is an understanding of getting the data back and being able to see the outcomes.
I appreciate that. I hate to cut you off, but with such short amount of time. So how much of that $4.5 billion has been allocated to date to provinces and territories?
Not to date, because the agreements will have to be negotiated.
Okay. And so what is the delay in the agreements? If this funding was promised, a year ago, just to clarify? So we're waiting on an action plan, is that correct?
Yes, I think that what happened, I think that there was a concern with the $5 billion, that on the ground, the people on the ground wanted to make sure that $5 billion got to mental health and substance use. So with the 4.5, it will be with an action plan that will make sure the money is going where and is like in the $5 billion. Things like integrated youth services, digital health, better mental health and family care, substance use, human resources, and the complex needs. Those are the 6 things the provinces and territories have been working with us on national standards in working groups, and then as we work through that, then the money will be assigned.
Thank you, Minister. So, unfortunately, people, and we're hearing this throughout the room over and over, and you're very aware, I'm certain in your position as well, that people are dying. This is a crisis. We need to see funding being allocated to provinces and territories so that people can get the help that they need. This is an emergency, so I'm curious as to why we need to wait to allocate much needed funding I understand that this work needs to be done, but what are your thoughts on implementing the funding immediately so people can get the help that they need and then continue the work of better understanding? I mean, we saw this during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we got help to people. I shouldn't say we, the government got help to people, and along with the work of the NDP pushing for people to get that help, and that funding was distributed. Why can we not see a similar model with the mental health supports?
So at the beginning of COVID, that is when we set up the Wellness Together Canada, and then in January we announced Pocket. Well, we are doing what we can in partnership with the provinces and territories to take that pressure off. But I think that there's a very clear understanding that we have to do things differently. That this just having money where we aren't seeing the transformation, we aren't seeing the use of peer supports, the use of nurses and social workers. I think as you saw with Dr. Vigod's testimony here, that in her study, of the 40 people needing perinatal mental health psychiatric support, only 2 out of the 40 needed the psychiatrist. Or this very specialized. The rest were helped at all other levels of the stepped care model. So we want to make sure that we are able, like with integrated youth services, like with perinatal mental health, like with post-secondary, that we are actually able to deliver the most appropriate care in the most appropriate place by the most appropriate provider at the most appropriate time, including in the middle of the night with Wellness Together and that opportunity to get help 24/7.
Thank you,
That
Minister.
this is I think this is an exciting transformation in the way we do things.
Thank you, Minister. I really appreciate your desire to have this funded appropriately, and I agree it needs to be done appropriately alongside provinces and territories. People are dying, and the funding needs to be allocated, and so I would like to reiterate the concerns by constituents in my riding that I'm hearing across Canada, of course, that this funding is much delayed and needs to be implemented. And in addition to that, I just want to segue to the toxic substance crisis that we are seeing in BC. Just in September alone, we saw 171 people die, and I'm hearing a lot of promises being made by the Liberal government to address the toxic drug supply crisis, but unfortunately, over and over, I'm not seeing the actual solutions being proposed and the funding being allocated appropriately. For example, my colleague MP Gord Johns' bill around the actual title, A Health-Based Approach to Substance Use Act, which the Liberals did not support, unfortunately, that recently came forward. This is recommendations based on the expert task force.
Your time is up. So
too much to say. Thank you, Chair.
You will come back around. You get 2.5 minutes in a second, but your question continues to go. Dominique, we're going to pass it over to you for 5 minutes. We're in a 5-minute round. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 2.5, and 2.5. Okay, go ahead, Dominique.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Welcome, Minister Bennett. Thank you for being with us today. This is a tough topic to talk about, and I imagine that you're in a hot seat. I believe that the 338 MPs at the House of Commons have goodwill. We want things to work. We want issues to be resolved. And I think that's the case for you as well. I think that you want things to move forward. You shared with us some numbers, and I had a hard time taking notes. It was programs, transfers, funding. And with all the testimony we've heard since the beginning of this study, maybe something happened and I missed it, but nobody came here and told us it's going well. You can't imagine how well things are going. We're having issues with funding and organization, human resources. We cannot meet the need. The government cannot meet the needs. I can't find the name of the organization who said it, but there was a woman who told us about an organization here in Ottawa we're not talking about something that's way out in the boonies. We're talking about a woman who is working alone to support her organization. I think a lot of people go through community organizations. They are closest to people and to schools and to parents and families. You started earlier by saying this is a timely study. Why did you say that earlier? I think that having an approach focused on mental health is very important. Your study is important for supporting mental health. It will allow Canadians to better understand their role. Question. Minister Bennett, do you believe that the study is timely because we have reached a breaking point between the needs on the field and what the government can offer these organizations and institutions to support people having mental health issues, specifically our young women? Answer. I'm optimistic because change is here. Services to women and integrated youth services are important, and the potential of virtual services as well are so important. It's time for change. And I hope that your report will push for change. That's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to put some pressure on things to move forward more quickly. And now I'll move to a more specific topic. Young women, many people, but specifically young women and girls, are victims of cyberbullying. What are you doing concretely to solve this problem? Because these problems lead to family issues, parents are impacted, schools. Have you implemented any indicators to see how things are going and how we can make improvements? What do you have to say on this? Answer. I believe that a lot of things happen in the cyberspace now. It is important for all parliamentarians to focus on the issue because, as you said, things are getting worse.
We're going to pass it over for the next 5 minutes to Sonia Sidhu. Sonia, you have the floor.
I think, Madam Chair, Emanuela is starting.
Throw it over to Emanuela. Emanuela, go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be sharing my time with Sonia Sidhu. Thank you, Minister Bennett, for being here with us today in order to answer some of our questions on this very important topic. Many witnesses spoke to us about perinatal mental health, because a mother whose mental health suffers will pass that suffering on to her children. And there's a link between moms who suffer from postpartum or any depression during any point of the perinatal stage, and kids who suffer from depression and who eventually turn into adolescents who suffer from depression, who turn into adults who suffer from depression. And so part of breaking the cycle means taking care of these moms who are in these situations. Dr. Vigod made a few recommendations because according to Dr. Vigod, perinatal mental illness affects 20% of Canadian pregnancies. That makes about 80,000 women per year. The funding, so he recommended the funding of training of perinatal mental health care and lay providers in short-term structured perinatal mental health psychotherapies so that perinatal mental health care would become integrated, and funding the training of personnel for new specialized perinatal mental health teams in underserved regions, making specialized care more accessible for all Canadians, regardless of where they live. So I was wondering, Minister, if you support these funding recommendations and these concrete measures to improve perinatal mental health care, and is the federal government doing anything to bring these forward?
Thank you for the question, and I have to say that I have totally learned a great deal from Dr. Vigod, and coming from Women's College Hospital, which is the reason I accidentally ended up in politics, in trying to save that place and its independence. Dr. Vigod, I think, was really instrumental in this movement around perinatal mental health and as well as the collaborative. On March 9th, we did do a roundtable with Dr. Vigod, and I think that we really felt by the end of the roundtable, this could very easily be an area where there could be national standards very quickly as to what any woman should be able to expect wherever she lives. I think the idea that the clusters of expertise in perinatal mental health are very not properly spread across the country, and it is going to be, I think, important that stepped care model means that if women are very sick and unwell, that they get the best possible perinatal mental health supports wherever they live. And it sort of speaks to what I was saying to one of your colleagues from Quebec, that it means that we also have to make sure that mom in Moncton can get the best care in French, if that's the way it should be, or in Sudbury. That it means that we have this opportunity with virtual care and virtual expertise, that we can really build out a system where moms are followed properly, and that again, the attachment problems, all of the things that you've described, Emanuela, this is hugely important, that no mom should fall through the cracks because she wasn't asked how she was doing, or that we didn't understand really the depth of her despair or psychosis.
Thank you very much. Sonia, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, I want to ask about the stigmas and stereotypes. I know specific cultural communities, how we can break down these stigmas, and then how important it is for some communities.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Sonia, for your leadership on this. I think you and some of our South Asian colleagues have been very, very clear about how important and how devastating stigma is, more in some communities than in others, and again, that people want support, not stigma, not judgment. And so I think that what we're learning is we need tailored approaches to stigma that understand really what it looks like and feels like in certain communities. I was very interested to see the Black therapists network in Edmonton, that they know that they are dealing with a great deal of stigma in their community. And I think that again, with First Nations, Inuit, Métis, what can we do? Because the history of residential school was
Minister
that emotion
Bennett, thank you very much, Minister Bennett.
Yes.
We're way over time there. I tried to give you a little, but we are going to a different direction. I'm going to pass it over for the next 2.5 minutes to Andréane Laroche. There you go.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you again, Madam Minister, for being with us today. Just to come back, and I will ask something different in this second round, but you confirmed that trying to implement a national action plan delays the most urgent solutions to help people with mental health issues. Funding is delayed as you try to put in standards and to create a national action plan, and organizations are not receiving any support. But I would like to talk to you about what the federal government could do to support the mental health of young women. And my colleague Dominique Vien mentioned it with cyber violence. Last week, I met with someone who was part of the team making Je vous salue Salop, who is now creating a campaign on cyber violence. And their request to the federal government is clear, that there should be legislation to counter online hate and this cyber violence. My colleague was asking what the federal government can do, but that is something that has been asked. Have you had discussions with your colleagues on this? And where are we? Where are you with the legislation to counter online hate? Answer. I think that this legislation will be essential. Many behaviors are already criminal. But we need to have the best legislation possible to solve the issue. Of course, because 85% of social media users face some form of violence. Over 50% said that online was not a good space to share their feelings. In 2020, there was over 14,000 cases of harassment. But, Madam Minister, I would like to ask you to talk about this with your colleagues.
10 seconds to respond to that very, very quickly, and then we're on to the next. Go ahead.
Maybe Candace, do you just want to explain what you've been up to?
Yeah, we're not going to have a lot of time. So so what I will be doing is I'll pass it over to Lisa Marie, and to Candace, we may be asking some more for that. But go ahead, Lisa Marie.
Thank you.
2.5 minutes.
I have a lot I want to ask in a short period, so I'm going to try to keep it succinct, and I hope that I can get some quick answers from you, Minister. Just following my last question around the toxic drug supply crisis, and to reiterate that currently the government is not following the recommendations of their very own expert task force. And I'm wondering if the Minister could share when the government will begin taking a health-based approach to the toxic drug substance instead of a criminal one.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. We have to move from the criminal justice system into health and social services. It's the reason why we were able to do the agreement with British Columbia, because they have put those health and social services in place such that we will be able to choose to work with them on public health as well as public safety indicators as that the decriminalization for small amounts will come into effect in the spring. So we are also at the same time following on the expert task force. Obviously, this community of safe supply is hugely important as we move forward in to make sure that we can. There is no recovery model for people who are dead.
Okay, thank you, Minister. The other question that I had was around the overrepresentation of First Nations people. We know that First Nations people are 5 times more likely to experience an overdose, 3 times more likely to experience a fatal overdose. This is within British Columbia stats, and I know these stats coincide across Canada. Also, in my recent visit in Nunavut, it was clear that there is a lack of access to many of the mental health supports and all health supports for people in northern and remote communities. This is specific to, I know, a call for justice that was brought up in this committee, 3.4 around, and I don't want to read the whole thing because I will run out of time, but around providing basically supports across Canada for all those who need it. And I'm wondering if the government will be fulfilling this call to action to ensure that our First Nations communities have access to adequate and accessible mental health supports.
Minister, you're left with 10 seconds.
Absolutely, and this is something that I work very closely with my colleague, Minister Haiju, on, but it also is one that as we expect, not also in our urban centers, that we have to have access to trauma-informed, culturally safe care.
Thank you so much. We're now into our last section. What we're doing is we'll have 4 minutes each. It's going to be Anna Roberts with Michelle and Mark Saray. So I'll start off with Anna. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. You talked about funding, and we talk about the urgency of people dying. We talk about the numbers. I think my colleague Michelle referenced it earlier with Minister Ian, how we dropped from 10th to 30th out of 38. But here's my question. So we heard from witnesses, and one of the things we heard from Chelsea from Covenant House in Vancouver were there was youth issues, street outrage, their short outreach shelters, support trafficking youth. Girls are 3 times more at risk, left behind for mental health, violence against women. Her recommendations, again, I talked about this earlier, need more housing, need more help for the homeless by investing in our youth programs, mental health, protection, transportation. And one of the other witnesses, I won't go through all of them, but Gabriel from Assembly of South 7 Generations mentioned 30% of youth show trauma when taken from their homes, a housing shortage, staffing people, professionals with the expertise to assist our mental health situation, homes for youth. So they go on and on. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole list, the poverty issue, the inflation issue, the cost of running these programs. You talked about the funding. When someone is sick and they go to the hospital and they have a heart attack, they act immediately. We're losing people by the minute. Why are we holding off on the funding when we already know from witnesses that we're struggling?
So the funding continues, and in the substance use and addiction programs, in the mental health promotion innovation fund, those dollars continue to flow. We are working with our partners to save those lives. We are also working with my colleagues like Minister Hussein on the rapid housing, where when you've got the need to have social services, wraparound services for that wrapping housing, we're working with the provinces and territories to make sure they're there. We know that kids aging out of care have very special needs for housing. We know people coming out of jail have very special needs for housing. We are trying in the national housing strategy to make sure that mental health isn't over here and housing over here and social services over there, and also, as you say, apprehending children has been a devastating policy, and that is what Minister Haidju and Minister Miller have been doing in trying to make sure that stops forever.
I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Michelle.
Thank you, and thank you to my colleague. Minister Bennett, I'm going to be very blunt here, and everything you just said is exactly what is happening. It is all siloed. There is no wraparound services. This is why we've fallen. This is why we have children who are dying. This is why we are 35th out of 38th. And I understand there is good intention here, but the execution is desperately lacking. For you to say that people go to the doctor on Friday and their family emergency room on a Friday and their family doctor knows on Monday, that's false. Most people don't even have a family doctor. So no, they don't know. And the other question, I guess what I would love to see, because I know you care, and we have this great reputation in this committee. Everybody here cares. Where is this action plan that you're speaking of? Can we see it? What is the timeline? When can we expect to see these results? Everyone around here has heard this over and over again. The stigma, we are way past that. We are way past the stigma. This is action time. Where is the action plan? When can we see it? Can you please table it to the committee?
Michelle, I think that what I was describing was the promise of integrated youth services. What I was describing was the fact that in that evidence-based approach that is seeing such important
So where is
growth.
it?
So 6 years ago, there was one site. There's now 25 sites.
Okay.
The promise of sites coast to coast to coast. We are getting there because we are supporting people doing things
Thank you very
differently.
much, Minister Bennett.
And the CIHR proving what works.
Thank you very
It's
much, Minister
very
Bennett. We're now going to move it
exciting.
over to Mark Saray for the last few seconds. Go ahead, 4 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you, very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Minister. Thank you for your previous roles as well. Thank you for visiting Sudbury and Northern Ontario and looking at virtual care, School of Medicine of Sudbury Thunder Bay, which is 11 hours to drive, and there are 110 First Nations. Can you tell us more about the pandemic and mental health and virtual care?
To implement this more on the self-assessment, and when we're looking at youth, reaching out to youth and working with the provinces on this.
What's exciting about even what we learned from Wellness Together Canada and the kind of assessment of people being able to just explore their resources online, find out what might be helpful for them, and then if they need somebody to call, that can happen 7/24. And so that I think is like the Kids Help Phone that we know is just helping thousands of kids. That's one of the partners in the Wellness Together platform. This is something that I think has been really accelerated by COVID. I think 20 years ago we wanted to be able to do more things online, or even the teen clinics at hospitals wanted to be able to just let the teen have their appointment on the phone. And so I think this is what's happening now. Some people feel better if they have the original appointment in person and then follow up online. But I think it's very exciting, and even to the more subspecialized areas of having access to an addiction medicine person that really is the best in the trade. I think, and I also think the idea that we could get that for Indigenous people and for First Nations languages in Michif, in Inuktitut, but also I think that the push for national licensure is going to be about Francophones, wherever they live in Canada, to be able to get mental health supports in their own language.
And I thank you, and I really want to thank you and Minister Duclos, Mr. Marcian, for the leadership that you're providing to get this plan, because as you indicated, we had to do things differently. This is not working. We've heard, from the opposition about things not working, and we really have to look at things like integrated youth services, 12 to 25. That's so important. We heard eating disorders, 18, valley of death afterwards. It's just awful. And I want to thank you for listening to the organizations. Thank you, because they want to have services, integrated services. And we hear clearly today, this is a good example, in just this 1 hour, 3 opposition parties talking about provinces. We have BC, safe consumption site. They want, and sure, I hope other provinces will follow the lead of BC and then work with us. We've heard other provinces or other opposition here saying that we want to have, safe consumption sites. But we have province of Ontario that would not even fund that. An example in Sudbury, the municipality and the federal government supported the safe consumption site that you visited with me just a while back. So we really need to ensure that we have those standards. So thank you for working with the provinces and the community organizations to ensure that we have a plan moving forward, a sustainable plan moving forward, integrated services for mental health and substance use.
Thank you very much. Mark happened to just use all his time, but I think that was just a wrap-up statement after a really good meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our witnesses. Thank you to Minister Bennett and to everybody that has come for this, talking about the mental health and wellness. This is so important. I would just like to remind everybody we have a meeting on Thursday. Thursday's meeting, we're still in the process of trying to figure it out. We will be having trauma-informed training that will be presented to all of us. One of my requests has been to Heritage Committee to Heritage Canada to find out what is safe sport, what's all of these things. I'm still trying to get a briefing for everybody, still working on that. We'll find out, but if not, I'll make sure we're definitely working hard. So I'd like to motion to adjourn today's meeting. Happy Joyful. See you all on Thursday.